Hello, I am First Timer, and this is my PvE Melee Holy Turtle WoW guide. So, this guide is going to be aimed more towards the newer player or the returning player, but there may be something in here for advanced players as well. So, let's get started. So, your general playstyle. So, the idea of this playstyle is that you're going to heal by remaining within melee range to provide group-wide healing and short-term healing bursts. So your goals will be hitting targets with Holy Strike on cooldown, maintaining Judgment of Light on bosses, using Holy Shock on cooldown to top up heavily damaged party members, maintaining Seal of Wisdom on yourself while attacking in melee, using Crusader Strike when you need to reset the cooldown of Holy Shock, and casting Judgment to refresh Holy Judgment. So, strike abilities explained. So we have Holy Strike. It costs 90 mana and has a 6-second cooldown. So it deals damage to your enemy, restores 90 health and 90 mana to you and 4 allies within 10 yards. So this is good because it costs 90 mana and it will refund 90 mana to you. So it's essentially a free spell, and it's an AoE heal for your group. So the healing effect is reduced by half on yourself. That's not super important. So we have Blessed Strikes, which Crusader Strike has a 100% chance to reset the cooldown of your Holy Shock. In addition, the healing effect of your Holy Shock is increased by 100% and benefits from an additional 25% of your healing power. So this is huge. So you can cast Crusader Strike to reset the cooldown of Holy Shock, and your Holy Strike gets a very large boost in healing. So Holy Strike actually becomes a pretty viable group healing method. So along with Crusader Strike, resetting your Holy Shock, it can give you Zeal. So a little tip here. It says that Zeal only increases your attack speed, but that's incorrect. It increases your attack and casting speed. So it gives you 3% per stack, and it stacks up to 3 times. So 9% increased casting speed. Very useful. So let's get into the healing spells. So we have Holy Shock here. They've reduced the cost of Holy Shock and drastically increase the healing of it. We'll talk about the second half of it here in a second. So we have Divine Favor. It improves the chance to get a critical strike with Holy Shock by 50%. So this is huge. This basically gives Holy Shock a base 50% chance to crit. Pretty massive. So next we have Healing Light. Increases the amount healed by your Holy Light, Flash of Light, and Holy Shock spells by 12%. So they've now added in Holy Shock into this. So at the bottom here, now acquired at row 5, can no longer target enemies, but the amount of healing is increased and now has a chance to reset its own cooldown, which starts at 5% and is increased by 1% for every 100 healing power you have. So this is in reference to Holy Shock, so it starts at 5%, and if you had 500 healing power, that would be an additional 5%, so it would have a 10% chance to reset itself. So if you have 1000 healing power, you would then have a 15% chance for it to reset itself, so very useful. So Flash of Light, it now has a new rank 7. It costs 40 mana more than rank 6, but it's extremely worth it. It heals for quite a bit more than rank 6. So let's get into Holy Power here. Increases the critical effect chance of your Holy Light and Flash of Light by 6%. It's a pretty big talent there. Holy Light, so it has a 2.5 second cast, and this is your big heal, but it's expensive, so you need to use it wisely. But we have Holy Judgment here, which casting Judgment reduces the casting time of your next Holy Light by 1 second. So Holy Light, normally 2.5 seconds. It brings it down to 1.5 seconds, which in turn makes it the same casting speed as Flash of Light. So it's an extremely good emergency tool. So a new core Holy Paladin ability introduced is Daybreak. It critically healing an ally, leaves Daybreak on them for 12 seconds. Daybreak increases healing taken from Flash of Light and Holy Light by 20%, healing taken by Holy Shock by 30%, excuse me, and increases their maximum hit points by 5%. So, extremely useful tool. Increases the healing you do on somebody and increases their maximum health. So, extremely easy way to practice is going to be Holy Shock. Now that Holy Shock has a 50% chance to crit base. And another good way to practice is you can use a rank 1 Flash of Light and wait for that to crit. That's also a pretty useful way to do that. So let's get into down ranking. So as I said before, Flash of Light rank 1. This can be extremely useful to either proc Daybreak or at higher gear levels. Rank 1 is actually a very viable use of healing. So if you have a Blessing of Light on everybody and you have over 1,000 healing power, Flash of Light can really start to crit up in the 1600s. So really nice rank 1. So Flash of Light rank 4. This is just kind of in the middle. Maybe when somebody's not missing 1,300 health, but maybe when they're missing 900 to 1,000 health or something like that, I'll probably throw a Flash of Light rank 4 out. And then so the Flash of Light rank 6 and rank 7, you're only going to want to use one of these as your maximum rank. So if you're not quite as geared, rank 7 may be a little too expensive to spam, and in any case you could just spam rank 6. So you would just not use rank 7 until you had good enough gear, and then you could switch to rank 7 and then call that a day. So Holy Light here rank 1. So the reason I have this on my bar is because it's one of the most mana efficient heals in the game. It only costs 35 mana, and if you have a Blessing of Light on the target, it can heal for an extremely large amount. So in addition to the Holy Judgments, which could reduce this to 1.5 second cast, you can get a lot of healing fast out of just 35 mana. So I keep this on my bar for low mana emergencies. So Holy Light rank 8 and 9, they have the same situation as rank 6 and 7 of Flash of Light. You only want to use one of these as your maximum rank. So Holy Light rank 9 comes from a skill book in AQ20. So if you don't purchase that or farm that, your only choice will be rank 8. So moving on. We're going to explain the seals here. So Seal of Light and Seal of Wisdom, they essentially work the same. Seal of Light, if you cast it on yourself and you auto attack a target, it will heal you. Seal of Wisdom, if you cast it on yourself and attack a target, it will restore mana. So if you Judgment a target with either one of these, it will put a seal on a target that will then either heal everyone who hits it in melee or restore mana to anybody who hits it or cast a spell on it. So we also have Seal of the Crusader. This is going to be useful if you are in a group with a Retribution Paladin or a Protection Paladin, because more times than not they will be casting Seal of Wisdom on targets. So you can give your Paladins a pretty huge bonus in damage by putting this on the target or yourself. Excuse me. So next up we have Holy Judgment. So casting Judgment reduces the casting time of your next Holy Light. So we went over this a second ago. These are just essentially what's going to trigger this. So every time you unleash a Judgment on a target, Holy Judgment will then be given to you. So you can actually use Holy Lights more often than you think as a Melee Holy. So use those to your advantage, because you're going to be standing in melee a lot. Like, you can spend a lot of mana as a Melee Holy, because look at this. Giving each melee attack a chance to restore 187 mana. So it doesn't say this, but it's actually a 100% chance. So every time you auto attack a target, if you have a judgment on it, that's 59 mana on top of the 187 mana. That's every time you hit the target. So that's massive. That's huge. So for a Melee Holy, if you're standing in melee, constantly regenerating mana from Seal of Wisdom, you're not mana starved at all. You can cast Consecrates, you can cast Holy Wraths, you can cast basically anything you want, and not go out of mana if you're, as long as you're at least watching your mana a little bit. So let's move into the auras. So Concentration Aura is probably what you're going to be using the most. It gives a 35% chance of ignoring spell interruption when damaged to all party members within 30 yards. Players may only have one aura on them per paladin at a time. So essentially what this does is, with the paladin talent, this will give you a 100% chance to ignore spell interruption when damaged. So not your whole party, just you. So we can look at improved concentration aura. Increases the effect of your concentration aura by an additional 15% and gives all group members affected by the aura an additional 15% chance to resist silence and interrupt effects. So if you're just doing it for you, this part of the talent is wasted, the top section, because your talent gives you 70% chance to ignore. So just with base concentration aura, you have 105% chance to ignore spell interruption. So with improved, you'd be at 120. So it'd be a waste. However, the useful thing is the resist to silence and interrupt effects. Like Blackrock Depths has a lot of interrupt effects. Lower Cars on Halls has a lot of silence effects. So this can actually be really useful. So we have Devotion Aura. It gives armor, so this is really useful to give to an undergeared tank. Retribution Aura. This is very nice to give to mostly tanks, like warriors and whatnot. Baradrids even, they have thorns, but maybe even a protection shaman, a tank shaman. So Retribution Aura basically just gives them a thorns effect on them, to where every time something hits them, they deal damage back to the enemies. So really good AoE threat generator for classes that don't normally have AoE threat generation. So Sanctity Aura, this just increases holy damage done by party members within 10 yards. So if you want to deal a little more damage, or maybe you have a protection paladin or a retribution paladin in the group, you can give this to them to potentially boost their damage. So next up we have fire resistance, frost resistance, and shadow resistance auras. These all do the exact same thing. They just give you 60 of the resistance in that magic school. So extremely useful in certain places, but not useful all the time per se. If you're going to just choose one aura to put on and forget about it, I would choose Concentration Aura. So okay, let's get into how to buff. So for some it may seem simple, but I get into a lot of groups and I get asked a lot of what the best buffs for certain classes are. So let's just go over what the buffs are quickly. So Blessing of Might, it gives melee attack power. Blessing of Wisdom gives MP5. Blessing of Kings gives you 10% more stats. Blessing of Light increases the healing done by Holy Paladins. Greater Blessing of Salvation, this basically just reduces the threat somebody deals by 30%. Greater Blessing of Sanctuary, this essentially reduces the damage somebody takes from all sources by 24, and every time that person blocks, it will deal 35 holy damage to the person that they just blocked. So pretty useful. If you want it too long, don't read, and you are the only paladin, just cast Blessing of Salvation on the DPS and use a 10-minute Blessing of Kings / Blessing of Wisdom on the tanks and healers. So let's get into it. So warriors, DPS / rogues. So you're either going to do Blessing of Might or Blessing of Salvation, depending on their gear level. So if they can't pull threat from the tank, you give them Blessing of Might. But if they can pull threat from the tank, you give them Blessing of Salvation. And if both of these are on them, you can give them a Blessing of Kings. So for the warrior tanks, we're going to give them Blessing of Kings if they don't have any issues with threat, or Blessing of Might if they do have issues with threat. This will give them some attack power and hopefully boost them up in some damage. So followed by these two, if they have both of these, you give them Blessing of Sanctuary. This will actually give them a small increase to their AoE threat. So every time they block, they'll actually do a little bit of damage, so that's pretty useful. Followed by Blessing of Light, because tanks are going to get healed by Paladins. So Healing Priest, Blessing of Kings. So why not Blessing of Wisdom? Well, Blessing of Kings because it gives them Spirit, and Spirit's pretty loaded for them. They get mana regeneration and healing power out of Spirit, so that's why you generally want to give Healing Priest Blessing of Kings. So that's followed by Blessing of Wisdom, though. Blessing of Wisdom is still good for them, and followed by Blessing of Salvation, so just so they can avoid some of that healer aggro maybe. And so we have Priest DPS. You generally want to put Blessing of Salvation on them. So both Smite Priests and Shadow Priests deal a significant amount of threat. So generally a good idea to have Blessing of Salvation on them at all times. Followed by Blessing of Kings or Blessing of Wisdom. Shadow Priests, they don't really need Blessing of Wisdom because they regenerate a lot of mana just through their spells, and you could give them Blessing of Kings, whereas Smite Priests do use quite a bit more mana, so you could give them a Blessing of Wisdom. So Druid, Boomkin, or Balance, you're going to want to give them Blessing of Salvation always. They deal a lot of threat, similar to Shadow Priests and Smite Priests, so keep Salvation on them at all times. Followed by a Blessing of Wisdom or Kings. If they have a lot of gear, Blessing of Wisdom is usually not the way to go. So if they're under geared, give them Blessing of Wisdom because they'll go fast out of mana. Or if they are geared, you'll give them Kings to kind of boost the stats that they have on the gear. So the Druid healers, so if they're a tree Druid, which is very mana intensive, you give them Blessing of Wisdom. If they are a Healing Touch Druid, so not in tree form, you'll give them Blessing of Kings. So it's not as mana intensive, and they'll get a boost in Spirit, a boost in their intellect, a boost in their health. So, and then of course Blessing of Salvation to remove the healer aggro. So Druid tanks, Blessing of Kings is usually the best thing to put on them. It gives them agility, which gives them armor, and it gives them stamina, and everything that just synergizes extremely well with Bear Druid. So, followed by Blessing of Might. This will be a huge threat increase for them. Blessing of Light. If they're a tank, they're going to get healed by Paladins. And Blessing of Sanctuary. It's mostly for the damage reduction. They can't block, so it's not as useful as to, like, let's say a warrior tank or a shaman tank or a paladin. So Druid cats, Blessing of Might or Blessing of Salvation, same deal, just depends on their gear. If they can pull threat, give them salve. If they can't, give them might. Followed by Kings. So Ret, same deal, Blessing of Might if they can. If they can't pull threat, Blessing of Salve if they can. Here you have another choice to make. If they have a lot of gear, you could probably give them Blessing of Kings, but if they're pretty fresh, it's Blessing of Wisdom is probably better, because fresh Retribution Paladins go very fast. Prop Paladins, Blessing of Sanctuary, they'll probably buff themselves with this, followed by Blessing of Kings for that survivability and mana and whatnot. It's actually really useful to them. Followed by Blessing of Might or Wisdom. If they want Might for threat, maybe, but generally I find Wisdom to be a little more useful. So, for the Paladin healers, always Blessing of Wisdom. Blessing of Wisdom is huge for us. We can follow that by Blessing of Kings. So, this will give us spell crit. So, spell crit's always nice for us. And Salvation, just to remove that healer aggro. So, Hunters, we have ranged, always Blessing of Kings, unless they can pull threat, which Blessing of Salve, followed by Blessing of Wisdom. These are the only 3 buffs that you can really put on them that do anything, unless they're melee, in which case you give them the same treatment, Blessing of Might. If they can't pull threat, Blessing of Salve if they can. So, Blessing of Kings after that, they can still benefit from this, and followed by Blessing of Wisdom. Mages, always put Blessing of Salvation on them. Mages tend to pull aggro the worst, so Blessing of Salvation on them, followed by either Blessing of Wisdom or Blessing of Kings. So Blessing of Wisdom generally tends to feel worse on Arcane Mages, since they get a pretty huge reduction in their mana regeneration. However, Blessing of Kings on them would be better. So if they're Arcane, Blessing of Kings usually is better. So Warlocks will follow this up with a Blessing of Salvation, just like Mages. They can be a threat issue, followed by Blessing of Kings. It gives them more stamina and more mana. So the more stamina they have, the more they can life tap, and the more mana they have, the less often they will life tap. Same thing for Blessing of Wisdom. They'll just have to life tap more or less often. So for Shaman Melee, Blessing of Salve if they can pull threat, which Enhancement Shaman is pretty notorious for having pretty high threat, so I would probably prioritize Blessing of Salvation. Blessing of Might over Blessing of Might, but Blessing of Kings is really good on them. They generally don't have a lot of mana, so any extra mana they can have is welcomed. Followed by Blessing of Wisdom, same thing. They kind of crave that mana. So Elemental Caster Shamans, we have Blessing of Salvation. These are much like all the other casters. They can just pull an extreme amount of thread in a small amount of time, so Salve is great for that. Followed by Blessing of Wisdom or Kings. If they're extremely well geared, Blessing of Kings is probably better to give them that spell crit, to give them clear casting and whatnot, but if they're not as geared, Blessing of Wisdom, so they don't go as fast. For healers, Blessing of Wisdom first always. It's amazing for them. Followed by Blessing of Kings. Followed by Blessing of Salvation, just to get that healer aggro off. And Shaman tanks. So Blessing of Sanctuary, if you can, is going to be huge for them. They'll block and deal extra AoE threat and have the damage reduction on themselves, because they are one of the squishier, they're probably the squishiest tanks in my opinion. Followed by Blessing of Kings. If you don't have Sanctuary, put Kings on them. It'll increase their health and whatnot. So followed by Blessing of Might. That'll give them the threat, little threat increase. Followed by Blessing of Wisdom, because they really don't have many ways to regenerate mana. Followed by Blessing of Light, because if they're a tank, they are going to be healed by Holy Paladins. So that's how to buff it. Like I said, it is a little complicated looking, but the more you do it and the longer you play, the more the easier it'll be to recognize who needs what buff and whatnot. But again, like I said, if you're the only paladin, cast Blessing of Salvation on the DPS and use a 10-minute Blessing of Kings and Blessing of Wisdom on the tanks and healers. If you do that, everybody will love you, you'll do your job, congratulations. So let's look at the stat weight and stat priority. So 50 armor equals 1 healing power. 1 healing power equals 1 intellect. 3 healing power equals 1 MP5. So essentially you're going to want healing power and spell power over armor over spell crit, because if your spells crit, you'll get that nice healing increase with it. So that's also followed by intellect and MP5. So mana regen is important because of the weakened illumination, but not crucial since you will be in melee regenerating mana with Seal of Wisdom. So this is why we have healing power and armor and spell crit above intellect and even MP5. So armor is nice for survivability and has good synergy with Ironclad. So Ironclad increases your healing power by 2% of your armor. So that's why we have armor right after healing power, because it's basically healing power. So 50 armor, 1 healing power. If you have just some green shield with 1,800 armor maybe, that's 37 healing power. So shields are worth a lot of healing power now. And illumination, after getting a critical effect from your Flash of Light, Holy Light, or Holy Shock heal spell, you regain mana equal to 60% of the base cost of the spell. So this used to be 100%. It's gotten a little nerf, but again, it doesn't really affect Melee Holy very much because you will be in Melee getting mana from your Seal of Wisdom. So moving on. Let's get into the exciting part, which is gear. So this is pre-raid set 1. This one's going to be kind of crafted heavy, but kind of BOE heavy, but this is probably the definite best pre-raid set. So Crown of the Lost Memories is from Stormwind Vaults. Animated Chain Necklace is from Stratholme. Red Dragon Scale Shoulders, these are crafted. Cloak of Atonement from Stormwind Vaults. Red Dragon Scale Breastplate, these are crafted. Gallant's Wrist Guards from Dire Maul North. Harmonious Gauntlets from Dire Maul North. Belt of the Ordained, this drops from Scholomance and Karazhan Crypt Trash. Red Dragon Scale Leggings, these are crafted. Red Dragon Scale Boots, these are crafted. Band of Mending from Stratholme. Forging Seal is from a quest. Briarwood Reed is from Upper Blackrock Spire. Second Wind is from Blackrock Depths. Librum of Divinity is from Scholomance. And we can look at the set bonus here. So the 3 set bonus increases your healing done by spells and effects by up to 26. And your 4 set, your direct healing spells have a chance to place a heal over time on your target, healing 240 over 12 seconds. So this is from the Red Dragon Scale set, and is pretty interesting for a Holy Paladin. So yeah. We're going to move on to the set 2. This one may not be as strong, but it doesn't have nearly as many crafted or BOE items inside of it. So we have Insightful Hood from Dire Maul North. Hollow Bone Choker from Black Morass. Dawnbringer Shoulders, these are crafted. Cloak of the Cosmos from Dire Maul West. Robes of the Exalted from Stratholme. Loomguard Arm Bracers from Scholomance. Harmonious Gauntlets from Dire Maul North. Whipvine Cord from Dire Maul East. Padre's Trousers from Dire Maul West. Boots of the Holy Mentor from Karazhan Crypts. Deep Earth Signet from Karazhan Crypts. Rose Wine Circle from Lower Blackrock Spire, Eye of the Beast from a quest, Second Wind from Blackrock Depths, and Librum of Divinity from Skullomance. So let's get into the pre-raid weapons. So both the Time-Shifting Wheel and the Blade of Infinite Mysteries are from the Caverns of Time reputation, so if you do decide to get exalted, you do get rewarded with two really good items. So but next up we have Draconian Aegis of the Legion from Upper Blackrock Spire, with the Hammer of Grace from Blackrock Depths. And then one step below that we have the Bulwark of the Crimson Guard and the Hammer of Revitalization from Dire Maul East. This is from Black Morass. So let's move on. So I grouped Molten Core, Zul'Gurub, Onyxia, and Lower Karazhan Halls together because I felt like these are going to be the pieces of gear where you're going to get first. So I think these are the places where you're going to start your raiding career. So we have a Lawbringer Helm from Molten Core, Jindo's Evil Eye from Zul'Gurub, Wild Growth Spaulders from Molten Core, Hide of the Wild, this is crafted, Lawbringer Breastplate from Molten Core, Lawbringer Bracers from Molten Core, Peacekeeper Gauntlets from Zul'Gurub, Corehound Belt, this is crafted, Lawbringer Leg Plates from Molten Core, Lawbringer Boots from Molten Core, and a double cauterizing band. These are also from Molten Core. A Sliver of Hope from Lower Karazhan Halls, a Zandalarian Hero Charm from Zul'Gurub, and we can take a look at the set bonus from Lawbringer. On the 3 set, increases the healing done by spells and effects by up to 31. It improves your chance to get a critical strike with spells by 2%. Very nice, very nice. So for weapons, we're going to go with Jindo's Hexer from ZG and Malistar's Defender from Molten Core. So we're going to go to Blackwing Lair, Emerald Sanctum, and AQ20. I feel like these take a little more preparation and a little more gear to complete than the other raids. So let's get into it. We have a Judgment Helm from Onyxia, Amulet of the Shifting Sands from AQ20, Wild Growth Spaulders from Molten Core, Hide of the Wild, this is crafted, a Judgment Breastplate from Blackwing Lair, Judgment Bracers from Blackwing Lair, Peacekeeper Gauntlets from Zul'Gurub, Corehound Belt, this is crafted, Empowered Leggings from Blackwing Lair, Boots of Pure Thought from Blackwing Lair, Cauterizing Band from Molten Core, Pure Elementium Band from Blackwing Lair, Sliver of Hope from Lower Karazhan Halls, Rejuvenating Gem from Blackwing Lair, and we can look at the 3 set from the Judgment. This increases healing done by spells and effects by up to 57, so huge bonus there. And we're going to go with the Jadestone Mallet from Emerald Sanctum and the Red Dragon Scale Protector from Blackwing Lair as our weapons. So huge shield, huge mace. I'd recommend getting your hand on this as fast as possible, the Jadestone Mallet. So AQ40, so generally you're not going to find pugs for AQ40. It's possible, but this is generally kind of like a guild only thing. So we're going to go with the Avenger's Helm from AQ40, Amulet of the Fallen God from AQ40, Avenger's Spaulders from AQ40, Cloak of Clarity from AQ40, Avenger's Breastplate from AQ40, Bracelets of Royal Redemption from AQ40, Peacekeeper Gauntlets from Zul'Gurub, Grasp of the Old God from AQ40, Avengers Leg Plates from AQ40, Avengers Boots from AQ40, Pure Elementium Band from Blackwing Layer, Ring of the Martyr from AQ40, Sliver of Hope from Lower Corazon Halls, Rejuvenating Gem from Blackwing Layer, and here's the set bonus for the Avengers set. Allows 15% of your mana regeneration to continue while casting. And your 5 set, your Holy Shock, Flash of Light, and Holy Light have a 10% chance to empower you with the Spirit of Erethdor, increasing healing done by spells and effects by up to 173 for 12 seconds. So 12 seconds is 8 Flash of Light, so pretty huge buff there. So Scepter of the False Prophet from AQ40 and Wormscale Blocker from AQ40 are your weapon choices. These are again pretty huge. So we're getting into NAXX. This is basically, as of right now, best in slot. So these are the exciting slides, I guess. So we have the Redemption Headpiece from NAXX, the Amulet of the Fallen God from AQ40, the Redemption Spalders from NAXX, Cloak of Suturing from NAXX, Redemption Tunic from NAXX, Redemption Handguards from NAXX, Redemption Girdle from NAXX, Redemption Leg Guards from NAXX, Redemption Wrist Guards from NAXX, Redemption Boots from NAXX, Pure Elementium Band from Blackwing Layer, Ring of the Martyr from AQ40, Eye of the Dead from NAXX, Rejuvenating Gem from Blackwing Layer, and a Libram of Light from NAXX. So the 2-piece of Redemption increases the amount healed by your Judgment of Light by 20 and Flash of Light by 60, so that's massive. The 4 set reduces cooldown on their Lay of Hands by 12 minutes. If you mix this with the Talon Improved Lay on Hands, Lay on Hands only has a 28-minute cooldown, so extremely useful. The 6 set, your Flash of Light, Holy Light, and Holy Shock spells have a chance to imbue the target with holy power. So essentially, for warriors it's armor, for paladins it's MP5, for spellcasters it's spell power, and so forth and whatnot. So it just gives these small versions of your blessings essentially to different party members. So great passive buffs. And the 8 bonus, your cleanse spell also heals the target for 200. So I cleanse all the time, and this would definitely increase the amount of healing you can do. So Hammer of the Twisting Nether from NAXX and Shield of Condemnation from NAXX are your weapon choices, and these are easily the best weapons in the game that you can get for Holy Paladin. So okay, on to talents. So first up, in the Holy Tree, we're going to go 5 out of 5 Divine Intellect, 3 out of 3 Holy Judgment, 2 out of 2 in Spiritual Focus, 3 out of 3 in Healing Light. I prefer to go 2 out of 2 Improved Lay on Hands. We're going to go 5 out of 5 in Illumination, 2 out of 2 in Ironclad, 1 point in Holy Shock, 5 points in Divine Favor, 3 points in Holy Power, 5 points in Blessed Strikes, and 1 point in Daybreak. So next we're going to go over and take 5 points in Improved Blessings. And here you have a little bit of a choice. So you can either go 5 points in Benediction, which is what I prefer, or you could go 2 points in improved judgment, and 3 points in improved Seal of the Crusader. You can provide protection paladins and retribution paladins some increased damage this way, so that's also nice. You can also go 5 points in deflection, so your base parry chance is 5%, so with this you get 10% chance to parry, and you have a shield, so you can be kind of tankier than most other healers. So I prefer to go Benediction because I like to proc Holy Judgment, so it just makes your judgment and your seals that much cheaper, so 15% cheaper. And then I like to go with Blessing of Kings. So we have 3 points left. My preferred way is to go into 2 in Unyielding Faith and 1 in Sanctity Aura. Again, because this can buff all your paladins and your smite priests, so Sanctity Aura can be useful. However, you do have an option to go 3 points improved concentration aura, or you could go Pursuit of Justice, which is movement speed with Sanctity Aura. You could go improved Retribution aura with Sanctity. I mean, there's a lot of unique decisions you can make with these last 3 points, but I prefer to do Unyielding Faith and Sanctity aura. Next on the list we have Enchants. So for the helmet we have the ZG Idle Enchant for 24 healing power. The necklace we have a beautiful diamond gemstone for 12 healing power. The shoulders you either go the NAXX Enchant for 31 healing power and 5 MP5, but that can be really expensive or hard to get your hands on, so if you can't, you just get the ZG Reputation Enchant for 33 healing power. For your cloak, you get Superior Defense for 70 armor. For the chest, you get an Enchanted Armor Kit for 9 damage and healing. For wrists, you get Healing for 24 healing power. For your main hand, you get Healing Power for 55 healing power. For offhand, you get Greater Stamina for 7 stamina, or Superior Spirit for 9 spirit. This is just a preference thing, you can choose either one. For your gloves, Healing Power for 30 healing power. For your belt, Dream Steel Belt Buckle for 10 intellect. For the legs, the ZG Idle Enchant for 24 healing power. The boots, Enchanted Armor Kit for 9 damage and healing. And both of your rings, you want a beautiful diamond gemstone, which is 12 healing power. So, last but not least, we have consumables. So, first we have the Major Mana Potion. It restores a lot of mana. Next is the Mage Blood Potion. It regenerates 12 MP5. Very good. Dream Shard Elixir grants 2% spell crit and 15 spell power. So it just says spell power in the tooltip, but it's spell power and healing. So Norjanar Herbal Tea. It restores a little bit of health and a little bit of mana. It's useful because it doesn't share a cooldown with your Major Mana Potion. So Spirit of Zanza is very useful. If you have access to it, you need to get certain reputation with the ZG Reputation to unlock it. So, Brilliano Oil. This is the best oil you can put on your weapon. It's 12 MP5 and 25 healing power. It's a lot. And then we have Nightfin Soup for your food. It restores 8 MP5 and lasts for 10 minutes. It's a little expensive and hard to make. So if you can't, a good substitute is Sagefish Delight. So over here we have our runes. So these runes share cooldowns with each other, but they don't share cooldowns with Herbal Tea and your Mana Potion. So what I like to do is I like to pop my Mana Potion first when I need about this much mana, and then I'll pop an Herbal Tea after once I reach about this much mana, and then I'll pop a dark rune as like a last resort. And generally what tends to happen is you can get a rotation where by the time you need mana again after using a dark rune, you can use your mana potion again. Alright, if you've made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you. I hope you found something interesting or useful. And this is my first time kind of doing something like this, so I hope you all enjoy.